Hi, everybody. I'm Shawn DuBravac. I'm the chief economist here at the Consumer Electronics Association. Thank you for joining us in this Google Hangout to talk about the holidays for the next few minutes. We are joined by a fabulous panel, gentlemen who have been studying retail and holiday for many years, chock full of insights. I love talking to these guys about the holiday season. We're been experiencing some small technical difficulties, so we apologize for the delay in getting started, but we're going to jump right into it. Jack, I'm going to turn first to you. Jack's the chief economist at the NRF. Jack, feel free to add anything you'd like to about your background and your expertise here. And then with that, I'll dive in a question from you. Why don't you kind of kick us off, talk a little bit about what you're seeing for the holiday overall, where you see things headed over the next few weeks. Good, Jack. Jack, I think we've possibly lost you, so I'm not picking up any of your mic. Adam, let's turn to you. Let's talk about Black Friday. Black Friday is right around the corner. Retailers are already out in force. Things started to pick up really pretty early this year. September was some of the first holiday promotions that we saw. November 1 really starts to kick off the holiday shopping season. Our holiday research suggested about a third of households want to do the majority of their shopping during Black Friday weekend. We're already seeing deals early on. We're seeing circulars that are thicker than they have been in the past. Adam, you want to dive in and talk through some of the trends that you're seeing?
Sure. Thanks, Shawn. We see that Black Friday will actually be up maybe as much as 7 to 10% on the electronic side. And the reason for that is there's half a dozen reasons. Number one, there's momentum. We had good September and October in electronics, positive comps both months. The price of gas being low puts more money in the pocket for people. This early notification of the Black Friday ads has consumers excited. They're able to see the items, think about it, a lot of press about the items, and then coupled with that earlier Black Friday special starting a couple weeks in advance. The new iPhone creating a lot of excitement, and more supply will create more volume. Just a general focus on CE. The CEA research has shown that. And surprisingly enough, the fact that there's been a lot of snow in the last week always helps the holiday season. But overall, we feel positive because in general for CE, often it's been one hot category has driven the season. And this year, between the 4K TVs, iPhones, and other smartphones, a good gaming season, the rebirth of computers, as NPD has shown us, overall, you put that together, we think we'll have a little bit of a pleasant surprise, an uptick from what we were seeing even a few months ago for Black Friday.
Yeah, I certainly agree with those trends. I think you definitely see a broadening of the tech base, if you will. At the same time, some of those core categories are doing well. Tablets have seen some slowdown, but still on the top of consumers' wish list. Notebooks coming back this holiday season, and we're seeing interest pick up there. Televisions with connected TVs and 4K televisions, as you mentioned, and then of course moving into the second year of the video game console is helping that. Jack, let's turn it back to you. We'll try it one more time and see if we can pick up volume from you. Do you want to jump in and talk a little bit about the holiday season? It looks like your screen might be go ahead, Jack.
Shawn, can you hear me okay?
We can hear you wonderful.
Okay, well then, I missed some of your conversation, but I know it was very important, okay? So in terms of our look at the holiday sales, I think we're looking for a healthy year. Certainly, the fundamentals are really in our favor in terms of employment growth. Some wage and salary growth has been occurring, and in general, I think consumer confidence has been improving. And last week's retail sales number certainly is a preface, I think, as we go into the next couple of months. Many concerns were out there about the holiday season, maybe that we were a little too optimistic, but I think it's going to bear itself out. Certainly, if you look back a year ago, there was a number of transitory and other unusual factors that I think hindered activities in the economy and therefore on retail sales. We remember we had higher taxes, we had a debt ceiling debate, federal government shutdown, and we had severe weather. Now, of course, I'm suffering from severe weather up here in northern Ohio, but I actually think that's a beginning of why people are going to go out and shop. They need warm clothing, and I hope that that's a signal for them to get further along on their shopping list. We're expecting a pretty solid season, I think, of discounts and promotions. I think consumers have been conditioned by retailers to expect such. So I think we're going to see volley after volley.
Yeah. Thanks, Jack.
Either online.
Steve Baker, I know we were having some technical difficulties with you. Let's try just one time and see if we can get a mic from you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you wonderful.
Right. I switched to a phone from a computer, so we can blame people who make computers for the initial audio problems there.
Well, that's the beauty of technology is we always have another device we can turn to. So I know that, Steve, you've published and NPD has published the Baker's Dozen, 13 trends that you're seeing play out this holiday season. You could dive into a couple of those or go elsewhere if you would and talk a little bit about what you're seeing as we head deeper into November and approach Black Friday.
Yeah, sure. So let me, while I would for the most part agree with Adam, last year we were actually up about 10% for Black Friday week versus the prior year. The concern I have about getting that far up this year, and the concern, at least from a dollar growth perspective we have, is that prices are kind of rock bottom right now. The core categories, things like televisions, PCs, tablets, those categories, the ASPs are really falling fast. The promotions are really coming fast and furious, and I think that's going to be a challenge for everybody to make their numbers on a dollar basis. Are there enough consumers out there to buy? Is there a lot of momentum? I think Adam's absolutely right. We're seeing a lot of momentum as well. But I think, again, the challenge is that there's a lot of momentum in some categories, but in some of the other categories, things like tablets, and we're not seeing that kind of momentum. And when I think you guys pointed out, we've only got 4 categories that represent half the volume. When even one of those categories underperforms, it's pretty hard for the entire marketplace to be successful.
Yeah, I think that's right. So, Adam and Steve, why don't we talk just a minute about some of those areas? I think, Steve, you hit on some really important things around the growth that we're seeing into the holiday season. What do we think about things like 4K Ultra HD? Do we expect that to do well this holiday season? We're seeing it show up for the first time, really, in Black Friday circulars this year. A couple of other new products we're seeing show up in Black Friday circulars, number of smartwatches, fitness bands. Do we think those will carry the Black Friday weekend and really drive momentum into the holiday season, or do we think it will show up from a suite of products elsewhere?
So I would say first, in terms of health and wellness products, we will have a good Black Friday, especially compared to last year where it was almost zero. But it's more important we'll have a good season and a good Q1 2015 with them. We see that it's a good gift. People will be buying it. And initially, the problem was there was a limit of what you could buy, and then once you ran out, there weren't other products there. But if you went and you saw Fitbit, they sold out of them in 2 weeks. And you see that true, whether it's health and wellness, GoPro will help drive some real increases. I think 4K TV will to me, the important thing is not just Black Friday. Last year, there was a real fall-off after Black Friday. Overall, the season didn't hit the numbers we wanted. I'm more confident today about the overall season, not just Black Friday weekend, because that's what matters. And I think if you look at the 5-6 week total, we have enough categories of growth: 4K growth, health and wellness growth, the GoPro, the iPhone, computers. I have the same worry as Steve that we could sell 15% more units than a year ago, and we might even be down in dollars. So we have to sell a lot more units. But overall, feeling pretty positive because of the, and as I said, to add to that, the video games. So there's a lot of categories that are hot for the season.
Yeah, I would add, I obviously agree with most of what Adam said. I think the challenge, again, is that, we've only got a few weeks, but I think it's great that we have momentum, and I think that's something that we haven't had in the last few years. There's really demand out there for tech, and we should be able to translate that into traffic and volume. Whether that translates into profits and revenue dollars, I think, really depends on how everyone goes to market. I think the challenge is always that in tech, once there's a little bit of momentum, that kind of drives everybody crazy, and they all decide they're going to get really aggressive on price and aggressive on features and things like that. And oftentimes we just kind of give away the revenue opportunity around the momentum that we're building.
Jack, let's turn to you for a minute. Are there trends that you're seeing in retail that you find interesting this holiday season, things retailers are doing? And also talking to the momentum that both Adam and Steve mentioned, do you think we'll see momentum continue deeper into December this year as opposed to last year where we saw things really start to slow down coming out of Black Friday? Jack, why don't you pick up on just some trends you're seeing in retail?
Generally, I think they're pretty consistent with some of the expectations that you guys have just been talking about. We just don't have a lot of freewheeling data that I can just point to, but the anecdotal data has been, things are okay and they're moving, but of course, some people are still waiting for, the big event that comes, next week, and that the shopping will actually begin more on Wednesday than it will be on Black Friday itself. They're really suggesting that they're going to be ready for people, and I just don't have much more than I can tell you right now, Shawn.
Adam and Steve, you guys picking up any interesting trends, things retailers are doing differently this year than they've done in the past? Besides opening at 4 o'clock on Thanksgiving as opposed to Friday morning?
Well, that's interesting for sure. Keeps me away from the dinner table. I guess that's okay. I think it's a great point when we talk about what I think that the kind of thought about consequences of all this focus on adding Thanksgiving and a lot of online promotions has been that we've put even more emphasis on the Black Friday, Thanksgiving, these couple of days, and we saw that last year when the sales just tanked after the first week and the next couple of weeks. And I think the challenge is not how do we get volume during Black Friday week, but how do we keep that momentum up? Even things like Cyber Monday and those kind of things, they're all graduating from the following week to Thanksgiving week. And more we're seeing all the promotions focused on that. And, we have to find a way to be more successful after Thanksgiving because, frankly, not everybody's looking for $99 televisions or $29 fitness bands during the days after Thanksgiving.
I guess I see one of the positive trends for the holiday, and we'll see this come January, is I think both Best Buy and Walmart in January will report that their omni-channel efforts, their .com working with their stores, were much stronger. Whether they're able to do promotions, whether right now you go to bestbuy.com and buy some of the Black Friday items, whether you can buy other items not available as they add items in reaction to what other people are doing, being able to pick up in store, ship from store. This is a positive impact from some investments that those two retailers have made over the last few years. They're still not going to be at Amazon in terms of their total e-commerce sales, but I think we'll see a pretty pleasant jump in e-commerce sales and the impact on their total sales for this year. So that's one thing to look at that is, I think, another positive. But if you look at it, we have positives in terms of the number of products. We have positives in terms of the weather. We have positives in terms of consumer behavior over the last couple of months. We have positives in terms of the kinds of promotions and the fact that the general press is promoting electronics as the hottest items. So overall, I mean, we just have a lot of momentum, as we've been talking about, and a lot of positive things that we think will help the Christmas season.
So let's talk a minute about that growth in online channel. We saw in our early holiday research that the number of consumers who wanted to shop online and plan to shop online this holiday season was actually growing. Last year was about 44% headed into the holiday season. This year was 54%. So we saw good, strong growth there. In research that we'll be releasing today, looking at Black Friday, we see, again, growth in the anticipation of buying online, shopping online, and broadly using mobile devices in our shopping, not just to make transactions and to buy products, but also to compare prices when we're in the store, look at prices elsewhere, look up product information. So, Adam or Steve, what do we expect to come out of this online trend? Clearly, more consumers are doing it, and from what we see, it's both a broadening and a deepening. More consumers are participating in those online purchases, and they're also doing it at a higher frequency. Does that drive down the ASP we see for the holiday season? Does it put more pressure to get consumers into the store? What are some of the trends we think that will materialize out of that?
Well, I think, Shawn, you nailed it in terms of consumers using mobile devices while they're in the store. And I think what that means is, just as I said in January, I think we'll see a pleasant surprise by Best Buy, Walmart, and others in top line. I think we will see an unpleasant surprise in terms of margin pressure. As consumers are in the store, they're going to go and say, this is the price I can get it, and retailers will be forced to match. And both Walmart and Best Buy are matching Amazon pricing in the store. So although there are already low prices and low margins based on the specials, the price matching will take place. The rest is a pretty big hit on the overall margins for pretty much every retailer out there.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and I'd also add that it goes both ways. And I think Amazon certainly is feeling some pressure as well from the retailers getting more competitive and being able to stand up to them online and using their omni-channel to take advantage where they can in the store versus things that Amazon might do online. So, yeah, things are going to be tough. Prices are going to be tight. Margins are going to be tight. But I think, that's a challenge for everybody. It's not just a retailer challenge. It's a seller challenge, and it's a vendor challenge as well, because certainly we're seeing lots and lots of TV and PC companies really struggling with the way the market is set up these days as well, heading into the holidays.
Jack, let's turn back to you and just talk a little bit about some of the dynamics that are in play as we head into the holiday season. One, of course, is a lower gas price. What do you see that doing for the consumer? Does that help the consumer but hurt overall retail sales? Does that benefit both the consumer and retail sales? Why don't you expound upon some of the things we might expect there? Go ahead, Jack.
Okay, well, let's talk about the consumer. And from that standpoint, should benefit from lower gas prices. But, it's going to take a while for the lower gas prices to translate into spending. It's just not automatic. I think that's, you know, a misgiving on some people's parts. Certainly last summer was a very mild summer in terms of utility, so I believe that the gas prices plus the lower utility costs that we have did free up and should provide the dollars and cents for more spending. And to that extent, I kind of built that into our forecast, although, you know, the lower the prices go, the more dollars seem to be freed up. Now, it's not equal because other middle and more affluent consumers probably aren't going to spend more money because their gasoline prices or gasoline purchases are not a big percentage of their budget. But for a, you know, low middle income person, it does become an important part of their pocketbook. Now, from a retailer, certainly what will be good from the standpoint of transportation costs, but I don't think that gets translated immediately into lower costs for a retailer to move its goods. I think those are already baked in at this point, but going into the future, if these prices stay down, it should be helpful to retailers.
Great, thanks, Jack, very much. Now let's flip back to technology. Steve and Adam, I'll turn to you for some thoughts on this. What are going to be the big surprises when everything's said and done? What will be the big surprises for Black Friday or for the holiday overall? What would be the things that we'll be talking about in the hallways of CES when we see each other next?
Well, I'll start and then I'll let Adam go. I think the big surprise is going to be how well PCs do and how poorly tablets do. The kind of popular press kind of views those two things in opposite directions, but right now the consumer PC market is seeing the lowest prices ever, and we see that in an awful lot of under $200 notebook computers available for Black Friday and even beyond that, while at the same time we continue to see the entire tablet market really struggle with what their value proposition is. So I think if you're really looking for a big surprise, I think the PC market will do better than people think, and a negative surprise will be tablets.
Okay, I see the surprises as not really being surprises because they're trends that are continuing. First and foremost is just the increased share that Apple will take of the overall CE market. Our store shops of the Apple stores in the last few weeks show surprisingly higher traffic versus a year ago. They had high traffic a year ago, and we're seeing it beyond just the iPhone. We're certainly seeing it with their computers and accessories. So first is everything in the Apple ecosystem. Second, I think the health and wellness has been a shock to us. The numbers are just incredible. Clearly Fitbit was the leader. There's a lot of other products coming out there. And again, the beauty of this is January is the biggest month, especially for health and wellness, so this should carry over into Q1, but overall that category. And third, the GoPro continues to surprise us with just how many units are sold. It's the new unit at the highest price point. The whole category of the kind of wearable camcorder is taking off. The new Polaroid Cube is an exciting product. And I think that will be a nice, pleasant surprise in a category overall. Camcorders that's seen decline for the last 10 years. Certainly notebooks would do well, and 4K TVs would do well that we expect. I think the other surprise, and I don't know that it's a surprise, is I think it's just the fact that every retailer, how much CE they will be promoting. And if we see whether it's a department store that wasn't really in CE or a mass merchant, but just the share of ads, if you go to a sporting goods chain and how much space they're devoting to it, or you see in their ads, and everyone you look at in the Black Friday ads, how much is CE versus a year ago was a shocker to us, and I think that's a good sign for the holiday season.
So, Jack, let's turn to you now and just talk a little bit about holiday hiring. Do we see any early indications that holiday hiring is picking up, that retailers are starting to staff in advance of high expectations for the holiday season? Jack? Go ahead. I know Jack's had a little bit of issue hearing the full conversation. Can you hear me now, Jack? If not, let's stay in the tech space again. What's going to be different for next year? What are retailers learning right now that they'll start to incorporate into the holiday season for next year? One area of discussion could certainly be Singles Day, November 11. We've seen it become an extremely big online shopping day for China. Do we incorporate that here in the U.S.? It certainly could fit within the mantra of trying to get consumers out early, get them buying early. It seems to be a good central magnet, if you will, in advance of Black Friday. Steve or Adam, you guys have any thoughts on Singles Day? Do we start to see it show up in the U.S.?
Well, I'll start because I think the problem you're going to have here is that everybody is used to waiting for Black Friday, and we've been trying for I don't know how many years to figure out when how to move people earlier into November, and almost every one of those strategies has been a failure. You know, you can go back to Black Fridays in July and Black Friday in September. None of that stuff works. People have been so well trained to wait until that week that they're going to wait. So I think if you look at next year, what's really going to happen is the guys who said, I don't want to open on Thanksgiving, or I want to be aggressive on Thanksgiving. If everyone is as successful as we think they're going to be this year, that's just going to put more pressure on everyone to get their best stuff out and aggressive during that whole Thanksgiving week and really be focused on winning Thanksgiving week.
So this wouldn't be a good discussion if Steve and I didn't disagree at least once. I think we will see in 2015 that Singles Day will be effective in certain pockets of the country. Asian populations like the West Coast and the New York to Boston metro area or Washington to Boston metro area. I think it'll start next year. I think 2016 would be the big year for Singles Day. Look, I think the big thing in 2015 holiday is we will have somewhere between 2,000 and 5,000 less consumer electronics-oriented retail storefronts. What do I mean by that? There will be some number of Radio Shacks that will close, whether it's 1,000, 4,000, we don't know what that number is. There is some number of Sears that will continue to close, and again, we don't know what that number is. The Office Superstores have committed to closing a significant number of stores. Best Buy is not renewing some leases in some markets. Yet overall, even if there were 5,000 CE stores to close, we'll see next season and promoting it. So what we see is where this year sporting goods retailers had one or two sections of the store, we see them taking 10-15% of their store. We see food and drug increasing the amount of space they devote to the category. We see the department stores. Macy's came out last week and said part of the reason they're not hitting the numbers is they're not in C, which is where the world is going. We see them going back after the department stores in a much more aggressive fashion. Outfitters that have experimented with CE expanding it. So overall, we see perhaps 5,000 less CE storefronts selling CE. I think that'll create some pretty significant changes for next holiday.
So why don't we go ahead and wrap up. Jack, why don't we start with you, and you can give us your closing thoughts. Jack, do we have you? If not, Adam, let's turn to you. We'll start this one with Adam, and we'll close with you, Steve, and then...
Okay, I'll start with, of course, you know, the biggest surprise for Q1 that we haven't talked about is the publication of your book, Shawn, and what we think that will do to the economy as hundreds of thousands of people line up to buy your book. But for Q4, we're more than cautiously optimistic. We think we have good reason that it's not just a good Black Friday, but it'll be a better holiday. We still see there will be a dip post Thanksgiving week, but it'll be less of a dip than in the past. And the overall holiday season, if you'd asked me a month ago, I would have said flat, up a couple percent. I think we'll be up 5 to 10% in electronics. There's enough hot categories enough attention paid to it by consumers, by the media, by the retailers. So overall, I think it will be a better season. I also think that the gas prices is a much bigger factor than people give it credit for. That extra $10 to $20 a week makes people feel a lot better, and they feel more connected in terms of that. So we feel very good about the season. I also think the fact is that Best Buy is in a much better position. One of the surprises by Best Buy, Costco, you name it, is how they're allowing the manufacturers displays in store as everyone has cut back the number of people. And I think those are powerful displays in store. I think that will help sell product in store. And I think, look, everyone, when they need volume, they turn to CE. So there'll be some pretty heavy promotions all the way through. And we feel positive about the season.
Steve, on to you.
Yeah, so a couple of things, right? One, I think, well, we've talked a lot about TVs and PCs and tablets and phones. There's an awful lot of strength outside those top categories. Phone accessories, Bluetooth speakers, sound bars, multi-room audio, the health products we've talked about. There's a lot of products out there for people to buy, and I think that's a good sign. I don't think we've had that in the past couple of years. I think that makes us feel pretty good about where the holiday is going to go as well. But I think in the long run, again, the challenge still remains that there's a lot of pricing pressure in the marketplace, and how do all the retailers, how do the manufacturers handle that? And then finally, I think the issue just around hardware in general, where the value proposition of hardware remains difficult. As great as a Fitbit or a digital health product is, it's really only as good as the app or the back end to those kind of products. So, when we look at these things, that's the other thing we really worry about is, how much value does hardware have going forward in a world where apps and services are so important?
Thanks, Adam, Jack, and Steve. I think I would agree with much of what was said today. Certainly CA research would reinforce many of these ideas. We see building momentum as we head into not only Black Friday, but more broadly the holiday season. We expect wholesale revenue to be up about 2% in tech for the entire year, but we see growth in spending for tech during the holidays accelerating to about 2.5% from a little under 1% last year. So we do see an acceleration of growth. And all of the deflationary pressures that we've discussed, even taking those into account, we see spending growth up in nominal terms, which also translates into a lot of units being sold. And I think one of the strengths there with units is that we've got a lot of innovation in a number of categories. So we're shifting now from a couple of key categories driving all of the growth in the holiday season to a much more fragmented growth profile. I think Steve and Adam both mentioned that and hinted towards that idea as well. Clearly, the big categories, especially smartphones, are going to continue to be a large driver. Laptops also helping to contribute. Headphones and some of the other categories will be rounding out. Video game consoles and headphones really rounding out that holiday picture. With that, thanks to our panelists, Jack, Steve, and Adam, three experts in this space looking at the holiday season really year-round. We thank them for joining us on this Google Hangout, and we thank you for dialing in and tuning in.